The deep space around the edge of human territory was quiet, like it always was. Captain Sarah Chun sat in her command chair on the bridge of the Border Patrol Station Outpost 7. The station was not very big. It had basic weapons, some shield generators, and a few small patrol ships docked to it. To anyone looking from the outside, it looked like a simple military post that was not very important. Sarah had been running this border patrol station for 3 years now. Before this job, she had done other work in the military, but now she was happy with this quiet assignment. The border patrol was supposed to watch for smugglers, pirates, and other small problems. Most days, nothing happened at all. That changed when the sensors started beeping with warnings. "Captain, we have multiple contacts coming out of hyperspace," said Lieutenant Torres from the sensor station. "They're big, ma'am, really big." Sarah looked at the main screen. Dozens of huge ships were appearing in the empty space around their small outpost. The ships were unlike anything she had ever seen before. They were long and curved, with strange markings on their hulls. Energy readings showed they had powerful weapons and shields. "How many ships?" Sarah asked, keeping her voice calm. "I count 47 vessels, Captain. The largest one is 3 times bigger than our entire station." Sarah nodded slowly. This was first contact with an alien species. The Border Patrol had trained for this situation, but she had never expected it to actually happen during her assignment. The protocol was clear, though. Stay calm, gather information, and try to avoid fighting if possible. "Open a communication channel," she ordered. The main screen changed to show the bridge of the largest alien ship. The creature that appeared was tall and thin, with blue-gray skin and 4 arms. Its eyes were large and dark, and it wore what looked like a military uniform covered in medals and rank markings. "I am Admiral Kethver of the Zephyrian Galactic Empire," the alien said. Its voice was translated by the communication system into clear English. "You will surrender your vessels and submit to Imperial authority immediately." Sarah stood up from her command chair. She had dealt with bullies before in her long military career. The key was to stay calm and not show weakness. "I am Captain Sarah Chun of the Terran Border Patrol. This is human space, Admiral. You are trespassing in our territory." Admiral Kethver made a sound that might have been laughter. "Human space? We have conquered 847 star systems across this galaxy. Your small outpost cannot resist the might of the Empire." "We're just a border patrol unit," Sarah said with a slight smile. "You might want to think about your approach here." The Admiral's 4 eyes narrowed. "Are you threatening us with your primitive weapons and tiny ships?" Sarah looked around at her crew. They were all watching her, waiting for orders. These were good people. They had families back on Earth in the colonies. They had signed up for border patrol duty because it was supposed to be safe and quiet. Now they were facing an alien empire that wanted to conquer them. "I'm not threatening anyone," Sarah said. "I'm giving you some friendly advice. Turn your ships around and go back where you came from. Nobody has to get hurt today." Admiral Kethver studied the human captain through the communication link. In all his centuries of military service, he had never met a species that did not immediately surrender when faced with Imperial might. These humans seemed different. They showed no fear, even though they were clearly outgunned. "You have 1 standard hour to surrender," the Admiral said finally. "After that, we will destroy your outpost and take any survivors as slaves." The communication link closed. Sarah looked at her crew. "Well, that could have gone better. Torres, send a message to Terra Command. Tell them we have first contact with a hostile alien empire. Request immediate backup." "Message sent, Captain. But it will take 6 weeks for the nearest Defense Corps ships to get here." "Then we hold for 6 weeks," Sarah said simply. Lieutenant Torres looked confused. "Captain, how can we hold against 47 alien warships for 6 weeks? We only have 12 patrol ships and basic station defenses." Sarah sat back down in her command chair. "Torres, how long have you been in the Border Patrol?" 2 years, ma'am." "Before this assignment, what did you do?" "I was a sensor technician on civilian cargo ships." Sarah nodded. What about you, Martinez? She asked the weapons officer. I used to run a repair shop on Mars, Captain. And you, Kim? She asked the communications officer. I was a teacher before I joined the Border Patrol. Sarah looked around at her crew again. They were not trained soldiers. They were regular people who had joined the Border Patrol for steady pay and the chance to see space. But they were her people, and she would not let them down. Here's what you need to know, Sarah said. The Border Patrol's job is not to win big space battles. Our job is to watch, learn, and hold the line until the real military shows up. I've done this kind of work before. We can handle these aliens. An hour later, the alien fleet attacked. Admiral Kethva had decided to make an example of these stubborn humans. He ordered what he considered a small demonstration of Imperial power. 10 warships moved forward and began firing on the human outpost. The humans fought back in ways that surprised the Admiral. Their weapons were primitive compared to Imperial technology, but they used them in clever ways. The small patrol ships did not try to fight the alien warships directly. Instead, they used hit-and-run tactics, striking fast and then disappearing behind asteroids and debris. The human station itself seemed to have more defenses than it first appeared. Hidden weapon ports opened up and began firing. The shields were stronger than expected. When one section was damaged, emergency barriers sealed it off and backup systems came online. But what really surprised Admiral Kethva was how the humans fought. They did not follow any of the standard rules of space combat that civilized species used. When one of their patrol ships was badly damaged, instead of surrendering, the human pilot rammed it into the nearest Imperial warship. Both ships were destroyed in the explosion. These humans fight like wild animals, said the Admiral's second-in-command. They have no honor. No, Admiral Kethva said slowly. They fight like they have nothing to lose. That makes them dangerous. The battle continued for 6 hours. When it was over, the humans had lost half their patrol ships and their station was badly damaged. But they had also destroyed 3 Imperial warships and damaged 5 others for a small border patrol unit. Using primitive weapons, it was an impressive showing. Admiral Kethva opened another communication channel to the human captain. Your resistance is admirable but pointless. Surrender now, and I will spare the lives of your crew. Captain Chun appeared on the screen again. Her uniform was torn and there was a cut on her forehead, but she still looked calm and determined. We're still here, Admiral. Your move. You cannot win? My ships are more advanced and I have more of them. Maybe, Sarah said. But you've already lost 3 ships to a border patrol unit. How's that going to look in your report to your superiors? Admiral Kethva felt something he had not experienced in many years of conquest. Doubt. These humans were not acting like any species he had ever encountered. They seemed to actually believe they could win, despite being completely outmatched. What are you waiting for? Sarah asked. You have 44 ships left. We have 6 patrol ships and a damaged station. If you're going to destroy us, why haven't you done it already? The Admiral realized the human was right. He could easily destroy their outpost with the ships he had left. But something about the way the humans fought made him hesitate. They had tactics and weapons he did not understand. They seemed to be holding back, as if they had secrets they had not revealed yet. You mentioned that you are just a border patrol unit, Admiral Kethva said. What does that mean exactly? Sarah smiled. It means we're the people who watch the borders and deal with small problems. Pirates, smugglers, lost ships. We're not the real military. Then where is your real military? On their way, Sarah said. You've got about 6 weeks to decide if you want to meet them. Admiral Kethva closed the communication channel. He stared at the damaged human outpost on his main screen. In 6 hours of fighting, these border patrol humans had cost him 3 warships and dozens of crew members. If this was just their border patrol, what would their real military be like? For the first time in his long military career, Admiral Kethva began to wonder if the Zephyrian Empire had made a mistake. The human captain was still alive. Her outpost was still functioning. And somewhere in space, the real human military was coming, the Admiral decided to call for reinforcements. Many more reinforcements. He had a feeling he was going to need them. 3 weeks had passed since the first battle at Outpost 7. Admiral Kethver sat in his command chair aboard the Imperial flagship Dominator, watching the tactical display with growing frustration. What should have been a simple conquest was turning into something much more complicated. The reinforcements had arrived. 200 of the Empire's finest warships now surrounded the human outpost. Admiral Kethver had called in favors from across the Imperial fleet to assemble this force. No single border patrol station had ever required this much firepower to destroy, but the humans were still there. Still fighting, still refusing to surrender. Report, the Admiral commanded. Commander Vextar, his intelligence officer, activated the holographic display. The humans have lost 14 of their original 18 patrol ships. Their station has taken heavy damage to 3 sections. By all calculations, they should have surrendered weeks ago. But they have not surrendered, Admiral Kethver said. Why? Unknown, sir. Our communications intercept suggests they are waiting for something. They keep using phrases like buying time and delaying actions. Most concerning is their repeated reference to keeping them busy until the real military shows up. Admiral Kethver stood up and walked to the main viewing screen. The human outpost looked like it should collapse at any moment. Sections were venting atmosphere. Weapon ports were dark. Shield generators flickered on and off. Yet somehow the humans kept fighting. What kind of real military could be more dangerous than what we have already faced? The Admiral asked. Commander Vextar pulled up another display. According to our analysis of intercepted communications, the humans have multiple military organizations. The Border Patrol appears to be their weakest force. They also reference something called the Defense Corps. How long until this Defense Corps arrives? The humans originally said 6 weeks. It has been 3 weeks since first contact. If their timeline is accurate, we have 3 weeks remaining. Admiral Kethver made a decision that would change the course of the war. We cannot wait 3 weeks. We end this now. Order all ships to attack formation. I want that outpost destroyed today. The largest space battle in the sector's history began at 0800 hours, standard Imperial time. 200 Zephyrian warships moved against the remaining human defenses. The Admiral had expected the battle to last perhaps 1 hour. It lasted 14 hours. The humans fought with a desperation and creativity that shocked the Imperial forces. When their last patrol ships were finally destroyed, the human pilots did not eject to safety. Instead, they programmed their ships to ram into Imperial vessels, turning their deaths into weapons. When the outpost's main weapons were knocked out, the humans began using their industrial equipment as improvised artillery. Mining lasers meant for cutting asteroids became focused beam weapons. Cargo launchers started firing chunks of metal at Imperial ships. Even the station's garbage disposal system was converted into a projectile weapon. These tactics are not civilized, Commander Vextar complained as another Imperial ship reported damage from flying debris. They are using their own destroyed ships as mines. Admiral Kethver watched a human escape pod deliberately crash into one of his destroyers. The small explosion damaged the destroyer's sensor array, blinding it to incoming fire from the station. They are using everything as a weapon, even their escape pods? The most disturbing moment came when the humans began using the local solar system against the Imperial fleet. Captain Chain, still commanding from her damaged station, had somehow calculated the gravitational effects of the nearby planets. She guided Imperial ships into gravitational traps, using the planet's pull to slingshot debris and disabled spacecraft into the alien fleet. "Sir," the communications officer reported, "we are intercepting human transmissions." "Put them on speaker." The bridge filled with the calm voice of Captain Chun directing her remaining crew. "Torres, use the moon's gravity to redirect that debris field. Martinez, time the industrial laser pulse with their shield rotation. Kim, keep broadcasting our tactical data to Terra Command." Admiral Kethver was amazed by the human captain's composure. Her station was falling apart around her. Most of her crew was dead or wounded, and she was facing impossible odds. Yet she spoke as if she was conducting a training exercise. She acts like she expects to win, Commander Vextar observed. No, the Admiral said slowly. She acts like winning and losing do not matter to her. She is only concerned with gathering information and causing as much damage as possible. As the battle continued, Admiral Kethver began to notice patterns in the human tactics. They were not just fighting randomly. Every action seemed designed to test Imperial capabilities. When the humans used a new weapon or tactic, they carefully observed how the Imperial ships responded. Then they tried something different. Commander, are the humans studying us? It appears so, sir. Our tactical analysis suggests they are deliberately testing our shields, weapons, and maneuvering capabilities. They seem more interested in learning about us than in actually winning this battle. This realization disturbed Admiral Kethver more than the human resistance itself. If the humans were treating this massive battle as a learning experience, what did that say about their confidence in the forces that were coming? The end came suddenly. After 14 hours of fighting, the human station's power core finally failed. The shields collapsed, life support shut down, and the remaining weapons went silent. Captain Chain's last transmission was brief and professional. This is Outpost 7 to any Imperial forces listening. We are surrendering due to catastrophic system failure. We request medical assistance for wounded personnel under standard prisoner of war protocols. Admiral Kethver looked at his tactical display. Of his 200 ships, 37 had been destroyed and 64 were damaged badly enough to require major repairs. A single border patrol station with primitive weapons had cost him nearly half his fleet's effectiveness. Sir, we are receiving another human transmission, the communications officer reported. From Captain Chun? No, sir. It appears to be from elsewhere in human space. The main screen activated, showing a different human in a different uniform. This one was older, with gray hair and more elaborate rank insignia. The background showed what appeared to be a much larger and more advanced military facility. I am General Rodriguez of the Terran Defense Corps. We have been monitoring the situation at Outpost 7. Captain Chun and her crew performed admirably under difficult circumstances. We are requesting the immediate release of all human prisoners and the withdrawal of Imperial forces from human space. Admiral Kethver stepped forward. I am Admiral Kethver of the Zephyrian Empire. Your border patrol has been defeated. Surrender your territory or face the consequences. General Rodriguez smiled. It was not a friendly expression. Admiral, you just spent 3 weeks and lost over 90 ships defeating a single border patrol station. The Defense Corps has 3,000 stations, each one larger and better armed than Outpost 7. Are you sure you want to escalate this situation? You are bluffing, Admiral Kethver said, but he did not sound confident. Perhaps there is one way to find out. Our fleet will arrive at your position in 72 hours. You can wait and see what the Defense Corps brings to a real fight, or you can withdraw now and avoid unnecessary casualties. The transmission ended, leaving Admiral Kethver staring at a blank screen. Commander Vextar approached with a data pad full of intercepts from the recent battle. Sir, we recorded several concerning transmissions during the fighting. The humans kept referring to their weapons and tactics as basic and standard. When Captain Chen requested permission to use something called heavy ordnance, she was denied. Her superior said to stick with training weapons only. Admiral Kethver felt a chill run through his body. Training weapons? Yes, sir. It appears the humans were not using their full capabilities against us. They were testing our defenses with weapons they consider suitable only for practice. The Admiral sat down heavily in his command chair. He thought about the brutal 14-hour battle, the human creativity, the willingness to die rather than surrender. The careful way they had studied Imperial tactics and capabilities, if that was what humans could do with training weapons and a border patrol crew, what would happen when their real military arrived with real weapons? Sir, the communications officer interrupted his thoughts. We are detecting massive hyperspace signatures approaching this system, multiple contacts. Very large contacts. Admiral Kethver looked at the tactical display as dozens of new signatures appeared at the edge of the system. The defense corps had arrived early. "How many ships?" he asked quietly. "Still counting, sir. So far I have identified over 800 vessels. They are much larger than our ships. And sir, these energy readings are unlike anything in our databases?" Admiral Kethver realized that everything they had faced so far had been a test. The Border Patrol had never been intended to win. They had been intended to evaluate the threat level and provide intelligence to the real human military. Now the real human military was here. "Open a channel to the fleet," Admiral Kethver ordered. "All ships prepare to retreat. We are withdrawing from human space immediately. Sir, we outnumber them. Should we not attempt to fight?" Admiral Kethver looked at the tactical display showing the approaching Defense Corps fleet. Each ship was larger than his flagship. There were hundreds of them. And according to the intercepted communications, this was still not the humans' primary military force. "Commander, if their border patrol cost us nearly half our fleet, what do you think their real military will do to us?" Commander Vextar had no answer for that question. As the Imperial fleet began its retreat, Admiral Kethver received one final transmission from the approaching human ships. It was from General Rodriguez again. "Admiral Kethver, this is your final warning. You have 72 hours to remove all Imperial forces from human space. Any ships remaining after that deadline will be considered hostile and dealt with accordingly." "General," Admiral Kethver replied, "what if we choose to fight?" General Rodriguez paused, as if considering his answer carefully. "Admiral, you just saw what our border patrol could do. The Defense Corps is our emergency response force. We handle natural disasters, pirate raids, and small conflicts. If you force us to actually fight, we will have to call in the Terran Navy." "The Terran Navy? Our real military, Admiral?" "Trust me, you do not want to meet them." The transmission ended. Admiral Kethver ordered his fleet to retreat beyond the 50-light-year mark immediately. As his ships jumped to hyperspace, he could not stop thinking about General Rodriguez's final words. If the Defense Corps was just emergency response, what was the Terran Navy like? And what other military forces did humanity possess that they had not yet mentioned? For the first time in his long career, Admiral Kethver began to suspect that the Zephyrian Empire had chosen the wrong enemy. Admiral Kethver stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the human Defense Corps fleet through the long-range sensors. 3 days had passed since he had pulled his forces back to what the humans called the 50-light-year exclusion zone. 3 days of studying the enemy that had humiliated the mighty Zephyrian Empire. The human ships were unlike anything in Imperial records. They were not ships in the traditional sense. They were massive geometric structures, each one the size of a small moon. The smallest Defense Corps vessel was larger than Admiral Kethver's flagship. The largest ones defied easy measurement. "Report," the Admiral commanded. Commander Vextar approached with his usual datapad. "Sir, we have completed our analysis of the human fleet. We count approximately 1,500 vessels. Our computers are having difficulty categorizing them. They do not match any known ship design patterns." "What do you mean?" "Sir, these structures appear to be mobile space fortresses rather than traditional warships. Each one contains multiple weapon systems, manufacturing facilities, and what appear to be entire cities. Some of them are launching smaller vessels that are themselves larger than our destroyers." Admiral Kethver absorbed this information. "What about their weapons?" "Unknown, sir. Our sensors detect massive energy buildups, but the technology is beyond our understanding. The power readings alone suggest they could destroy entire planets." The Admiral turned to look at the tactical display. His own fleet had grown significantly. Since the retreat, the Emperor himself had ordered reinforcements from across the galaxy. Nearly 10,000 Zephyrian warships now waited at the edge of human space. It was the largest invasion fleet in Imperial history. "Sir, the communications." Officer interrupted. "We are receiving a transmission from the human fleet." "Put it through." The main screen activated to show a human in a different uniform than they had seen before. This one was clearly military, with clean lines and practical design. The human appeared to be middle-aged, with calm eyes and a professional bearing. "I am General Martinez of the Terran Defense Corps. Am I speaking with Admiral Kethfer?" "You are," the Admiral replied. "I am impressed by your fleet, General. However, you should know that we have assembled the largest invasion force in galactic history. 10,000 warships stand ready to defend Imperial interests." General Martinez nodded politely. "Yes, we are aware of your fleet buildup. Our sensors have been tracking your reinforcements for weeks. It is quite impressive. However, you appear to have misunderstood our previous communication." "How so?" "Admiral, we did not come here to fight you. We came here to evacuate our border, patrol personnel, and to establish a formal first contact protocol. Fighting is not our preferred option." Admiral Kethfer was confused. "Then why bring 1,500 warships?" "These are not warships, Admiral. These are Defense Corps' mobile command centers. We use them for disaster relief, colony evacuation, and humanitarian missions. Each one is equipped to house several million refugees and provide emergency services to entire star systems." "You brought disaster relief ships to a military confrontation?" General Martinez smiled slightly. "Admiral, from our perspective, this is a disaster. You attacked our border patrol, killed our people, and are now threatening human territory with a massive fleet. The Defense Corps responds to disasters. That is what we do." Commander Vexstar leaned close to Admiral Kethfer. "Sir, if these are their disaster relief ships, what do their actual warships look like?" The Admiral had been wondering the same thing. "General Martinez, you say these are not warships? Where is your military?" "The Terran Navy has been monitoring this situation. So far, Command has decided that this matter does not require their direct involvement. The Defense Corps is authorized to handle the current threat level." "Current threat level?" "Yes, you have been classified as a Category 2 incident. That means you pose a potential threat to human colonies but are not considered an existential danger to human civilization." Admiral Kethfer felt his pride sting. The largest invasion fleet in galactic history had been classified as a Category 2 incident by humans. What would qualify as a higher threat level? Category 3 would be something that threatens multiple human worlds simultaneously. Category 4 would be a threat to Earth itself. Category 5. General Martinez paused. "Well, we have never had a Category 5 incident. That would require the complete mobilization of all human military forces." "And what organization handles Category 5 threats?" "That would be Strategic Command. But as I said, we have never had a situation that required their involvement." Admiral Kethfer was beginning to understand that humanity had layers upon layers of military organization. Border Patrol, Defense Corps, Terran Navy, Strategic Command. Each level apparently more powerful than the last. "General," the Admiral said carefully, "what would it take for you to withdraw your forces and allow us to proceed with our planned conquest?" General Martinez looked genuinely surprised. "Admiral, I think there has been a fundamental misunderstanding. You cannot proceed with any conquest. You attacked human territory and killed human personnel. There will be consequences for those actions." "Are you threatening us?" "No, Admiral. I am informing you of the situation. You have 72 hours to withdraw all Imperial forces to a distance of 100 light-years from human space. Any ships remaining after that deadline will be considered hostile and dealt with accordingly." Admiral Kethfer felt his anger rising. "General, you are facing 10,000 Imperial warships. Your 1,500 disaster relief vessels cannot possibly defeat us." "You are probably correct," General Martinez agreed. "If this became a straight military engagement, you would likely inflict significant casualties on Defense Corps personnel before we could neutralize your fleet. Then you will withdraw?" "No, Admiral. I said we would take casualties, not that we would lose. The Defense Corps is trained and equipped to operate in the most dangerous environments in the galaxy. We have faced solar storms, black hole disasters, and plague outbreaks. that could wipe out entire civilizations. Your fleet, while large, is not the most dangerous thing we have encountered. The transmission paused as General Martinez consulted with someone off-screen. When he returned, his expression had become more serious. Admiral, I have just received updated orders from Defense Command. You now have 24 hours to begin your withdrawal. The timeline has been accelerated. Why? Because the Terran Navy has decided to take a more active interest in this situation. 3 Navy patrol groups are en route to this position. They will arrive in approximately 18 hours. Admiral Kethver felt a chill. How many ships in a Navy patrol group? Each patrol group consists of 50 vessels, Admiral. But you should understand that Navy ships are considerably different from Defense Corps' mobile command centers. Different how? The Defense Corps is trained and equipped to save lives, Admiral. The Terran Navy is trained and equipped to end threats permanently. The transmission ended, leaving Admiral Kethver staring at a blank screen. He turned to Commander Vextar. Your assessment? Sir, I believe the humans are bluffing. 1,500 ships cannot defeat 10,000, regardless of their size or technology. Admiral Kethver was not so sure. He thought about Captain Chun and her border patrol crew. They had been outgunned by hundreds to one, yet they had inflicted devastating casualties on Imperial forces. If the humans had learned to fight so effectively with their weakest units, what would their real military be capable of? Sir, the sensor officer called out, I am detecting new hyperspace signatures. Multiple contacts approaching at high speed. The Navy patrol groups, unknown, sir. These signatures are different from the Defense Corps ships. Much smaller, but the energy readings are... The officer paused, checking his instruments. Sir, the energy readings are off the scale. I have never seen anything like this. On the tactical display, new contacts began appearing. The Terran Navy ships were sleek, dark vessels that seemed to absorb sensor beams rather than reflect them. Each one was about the size of an Imperial cruiser, but the power emanating from them was enormous. Admiral Kethver counted the new arrivals. 150 ships, 3 patrol groups, as promised. Sir, Commander Vextar said nervously, our computers cannot get accurate sensor readings on those vessels. It is as if they are designed to be invisible to our detection systems. Before Admiral Kethver could respond, a new transmission arrived. This time, the human on screen wore a different uniform entirely. It was black with silver trim, and the rank insignia was more elaborate than anything they had seen from the Border Patrol or Defense Corps. I am Admiral Thompson of the Terran Navy, 3rd Fleet. You are in violation of human territorial sovereignty and are ordered to withdraw immediately. Admiral Thompson, I am Admiral Kethver of the Zephyrian Empire. We do not recognize human territorial claims. That is unfortunate, Admiral Thompson replied. Because human territorial sovereignty is not a matter of recognition, it is a matter of enforcement. Are you declaring war on the Zephyrian Empire? Admiral Kethver, war is what happens between equals. What you are facing is a police action. You have committed crimes against human citizens. You will be held accountable. Admiral Kethver felt his temper flare. You dare call this a police action? I command 10,000 warships. Yes, I am aware of your fleet strength. It is impressive by galactic standards. However, you should know that the 3 patrol groups I have brought represent approximately 0.03% of the Terran Navy's total strength. The number hit Admiral Kethver like a physical blow. If 150 ships represented such a tiny fraction of human naval power, how large was their total military? You are bluffing, he said, but his voice lacked conviction. Perhaps. You would like to test that theory, Admiral Thompson suggested. I am authorized to use force to remove your fleet from human space. The choice is yours, Admiral. Withdraw now or face the consequences of your actions. Admiral Kethver looked at his tactical display. 10,000 Imperial ships faced 150 human vessels. By every logical calculation, he should have overwhelming superiority. But the Border Patrol had taught him that logic did not always apply when dealing with humans. What guarantee do I have that you will not pursue my fleet if we withdraw? You have my word as a Terran Navy officer. Withdraw to a distance of 100 light years, and this incident will be considered closed. And if we refuse? Admiral. Thompson's expression became cold. Then, in approximately 17 minutes, your fleet will cease to exist. 17 minutes? That is our estimated time to neutralize all hostile contacts in this sector. Would you like to test our calculations? Admiral Kethver realized he was facing a choice that would determine the fate of the Zephyrian Empire. Retreat and admit defeat to a force that should have been easily conquered, or fight and risk discovering just how accurate human military calculations were. He thought about Captain Chun and her destroyed border patrol station. He thought about the massive Defense Corps' mobile command centers. He thought about the dark, deadly-looking ships of the Terran Navy. Most of all, he thought about Admiral Thompson's casual mention that this tiny force represented virtually none of humanity's total military strength. All ships, Admiral Kethver announced over the fleet communications channel, prepare to withdraw from human space. As the Imperial fleet began its retreat, Admiral Kethver could not shake the feeling that humanity had many more surprises, waiting for anyone foolish enough to challenge them seriously. The Zephyrian Empire had learned an important lesson. Sometimes the wisest course of action was to avoid finding out just how powerful your enemy really was. Admiral Kethver had made a terrible mistake. Against all reason and the advice of his officers, he had decided to test human military capabilities. The retreat had lasted exactly 6 hours before his pride overcame his caution. The battle that followed became known throughout the galaxy as the 17-Minute War. Though most Imperial records would later claim it never happened at all, Admiral Kethver now sat in the medical bay of his crippled flagship, his left arm in a healing cast and his pride in ruins. Through the small window he could see the wreckage of what had once been the largest invasion fleet in galactic history. Twisted metal and debris floated in space where 10,000 Imperial warships had been. The human estimate had been wrong. It had not taken 17 minutes to destroy the Imperial fleet. It had taken exactly 11 minutes and 37 seconds. "Admiral," a voice said from the doorway. Admiral Kethver turned to see a human in a Defense Corps uniform. The human was young, with short brown hair and lieutenant's rank insignia. "I am Lieutenant Chun. I have been assigned to escort you to the prisoner exchange meeting." "Chun?" Admiral Kethver asked. "Are you related to Captain Sarah Chun of the Border Patrol?" "She is my aunt, sir. She asked me to give you her regards, and to tell you that she hopes you are recovering well from your injuries." Admiral Kethver found this human courtesy confusing. Captain Chun's Border Patrol station had been destroyed. Her crew had been killed or wounded. Yet she was concerned about his health. "Your aunt is a remarkable officer." "Thank you, sir." She always said the Border Patrol's job was to protect people, not to seek revenge. She would be pleased to know. Her sacrifice led to a peaceful resolution. Lieutenant Chun led Admiral Kethver through the corridors of the Defense Corps' medical ship. The Admiral was surprised by what he saw. The ship was clearly designed to save lives rather than destroy them. Medical facilities, civilian quarters, and recreational areas filled most of the space. Weapons seemed to be an afterthought. "Lieutenant, may I ask you a question?" "Of course, sir." "During the battle, I observed that Defense Corps ships did not participate in the fighting. Why?" Lieutenant Chun looked puzzled. "Sir, the Defense Corps is not a military organization. We handle emergencies, disasters, and humanitarian crises. We do not engage in combat operations." "Then what was your role in the battle?" "We were here to provide medical assistance to wounded personnel from both sides and to coordinate prisoner exchanges. When your fleet attacked, our ships moved to safe positions and began preparing emergency medical facilities." Admiral Kethver stopped walking. "You were preparing to treat Imperial casualties?" "Yes, sir. Defense Corps' doctrine requires us to provide medical assistance to all persons in need, regardless of their allegiance. We had surgical teams standing by for Imperial wounded even before the fighting began." This concept was so alien to Admiral Kethver that he struggled to understand it. In Imperial military doctrine, enemies were destroyed, not healed. What if we had won the battle? Then we would have provided medical assistance to human casualties and arranged for prisoner exchanges with Imperial forces. Our mission does not change based on who wins or loses. They arrived at a large conference room where the prisoner exchange meeting was being held. Admiral Keffer was surprised to see several other Imperial officers already seated at a large table. Across from them sat a single human in a different uniform than he had seen before. "Admiral Keffer," the human said, standing and extending his hand. "I am General Martinez of the Defense Corps. We spoke briefly before the recent unpleasantness." "Admiral." Keffer shook the offered hand, noting that the human's grip was firm but not aggressive. "General Martinez, I must admit your military performance exceeded our expectations." "Oh, the Defense Corps did not participate in the military action, Admiral. That was handled entirely by the Terran Navy. We are here to arrange the exchange of prisoners and to discuss humanitarian matters." Admiral Keffer sat down, feeling more confused by the minute. "General, if the Defense Corps did not fight, why are you handling the negotiations?" "Because the Terran Navy does not handle prisoner exchanges or diplomatic meetings. That is outside their area of responsibility. They handle military threats. Once a threat is neutralized, they turn the matter over to appropriate civilian authorities." "The Defense Corps is civilian? We are a hybrid organization. We have military training and equipment, but our mission is humanitarian. We report to the Department of Emergency Management, not to the military command structure." Admiral Keffer was beginning to realize that human military organization was even more complex than he had imagined. "General, who does handle diplomatic meetings with foreign military forces?" "That would typically be the State Department. But they have asked the Defense Corps to handle this situation due to the emergency nature of the circumstances." "Where is the Terran Navy now?" General Martinez consulted a datapad. "The Third Fleet. Patrol groups have returned to their normal patrol routes. The threat has been neutralized, so their involvement is no longer required. They just left?" "Admiral, the Terran Navy has many responsibilities throughout human space. They cannot spend time on administrative matters like prisoner exchanges. That is why we have specialized organizations for different functions." Admiral Keffer looked around the table at his surviving officers. All of them appeared as confused as he felt. Commander Vextar raised his hand hesitantly. "General Martinez, may I ask about the battle tactics we observed?" "The Navy ships used weapons and strategies we have never encountered." "I am not qualified to discuss military tactics, Commander. That would be a question for Navy personnel. However, I can arrange for you to speak with a Navy representative if you wish. That would be helpful." General Martinez spoke into a small communication device. "Control, this is Martinez. Can we get a Navy liaison for the prisoner exchange meeting? The Imperial officers have some technical questions." A few minutes later, another human entered the room. This one wore the black and silver uniform of the Terran Navy. His rank insignia indicated he was a junior officer, perhaps equivalent to an Imperial lieutenant. "I am Lieutenant Commander Park of the Terran Navy. General Martinez said you had questions about recent operations." Commander Vextar leaned forward eagerly. "Yes, Lieutenant Commander. We observed that your ships used weapons that seemed to bypass our shields entirely. How is this possible?" "Oh, you mean the phase disruptors?" "Those are standard equipment on all Navy vessels. They operate by shifting the weapon energy into a different dimensional phase, allowing them to pass through conventional shielding." "Phase disruptors are standard equipment?" "Yes, sir. All Navy ships carry phase disruptors, quantum torpedoes, and temporal field generators as basic armament. The patrol groups also had some experimental weapons, but those were not used in this engagement." Admiral Keffer interrupted. "Lieutenant Commander, may I ask what you mean by experimental weapons?" "Certainly, Admiral. The Third Fleet has been testing some new gravitational collapse weapons and reality distortion fields. However, Command decided they were not necessary for this operation." "Reality distortion fields?" "Yes, sir. They allow us to alter local physics within a limited area. Very effective against large enemy formations, but they can be unpredictable. Command prefers to use them only when absolutely necessary. Admiral. Kethver felt a chill run down his spine. The humans had weapons that could alter physics itself, and they considered them too dangerous to use against his fleet. What weapons did you use against us? Standard armament only, sir. Phase disruptors and quantum torpedoes. We also use some basic tactical programs, but nothing sophisticated. Basic tactical programs? Yes, sir. Combat analysis, target, prioritization, optimal firing solutions. The computer systems handle most of the tactical calculations automatically. It allows our crews to focus on more important matters. Commander Vexstar asked the question that Admiral Kethver was afraid to voice. Lieutenant Commander, you destroyed 10,000 ships in less than 12 minutes using only basic weapons and computer programs? Yes, sir. Though I should clarify that we did not destroy all 10,000 ships. Approximately 200? Vessels were disabled rather than destroyed. In accordance with our rules of engagement regarding enemy vessels that pose no immediate threat to human lives. Rules of engagement? The Terran Navy is required to minimize casualties whenever possible. Destroying ships with wounded crews aboard is considered a last resort. We prefer to disable enemy vessels and provide medical assistance to survivors. Admiral Kethver was struggling to process this information. The humans had weapons that could alter reality itself, but they chose to use only basic armament. They could have destroyed his entire fleet in minutes, but they chose to disable ships to save Imperial lives. Lieutenant Commander, he said. Carefully, what would have happened if we had posed a more serious threat? More serious how, sir? If we had brought a larger fleet, say 50,000 ships instead of 10,000. Lieutenant Commander Park considered this. That would probably require authorization for Class B weapon systems, maybe some of the experimental equipment as well. Command would likely assign a full fleet group instead of just patrol groups. How many ships in a fleet group? Standard. Fleet group is 5,000 vessels, sir. But for a threat of that magnitude, they might authorize a battle fleet. That would be 15 to 20,000 ships plus support vessels. Admiral Kethver did the mathematics in his head. The humans had patrol groups of 50 ships each, fleet groups of 5,000 ships, battle fleets of 20,000 ships, and those numbers represented just the Terran Navy, not humanity's total military strength. Lieutenant Commander, how many battle fleets does the Terran Navy maintain? I am not authorized to discuss specific force strength numbers, Admiral. But I can tell you that the Third Fleet is one of 12 operational fleets, and each fleet maintains multiple battle groups and patrol groups. Admiral Kethver realized that his invasion force of 10,000 ships would have been considered a minor threat by human standards. The Terran Navy alone had hundreds of thousands of ships, armed with weapons that could alter physics and tactics controlled by artificial intelligence. One more question, Lieutenant Commander. You mentioned that the Defense Corps reports to civilian authorities and the Terran Navy handles military threats. What organization handles threats to human civilization as a whole? Lieutenant Commander Park's expression became more serious. That would be Strategic Command, sir. But I am not authorized to discuss Strategic Command operations or capabilities. Have they been involved in this situation? No, sir. This incident was classified as a local security matter. Strategic Command handles existential threats to human civilization. General Martinez spoke up. Admiral Kethver, I think we should focus on the prisoner exchange arrangements. Your surviving crews need medical attention, and we need to establish protocols for future contact between our peoples. Admiral Kethver nodded, but his mind was still reeling from what he had learned. The Zephyrian Empire had attacked what they thought was a weak species with primitive technology. Instead, they had encountered a civilization so advanced and powerful that their invasion fleet was considered a minor local problem. The humans had weapons that could rewrite the laws of physics. They had artificial intelligence systems that could outthink any organic mind. They had military forces so vast that the largest invasion Fleet in galactic history was defeated by a tiny patrol force using basic equipment. Most terrifying of all, they had done all of this while following rules designed to minimize casualties and provide medical assistance to their enemies. As the prisoner exchange negotiations continued, Admiral Kethver could not stop thinking about Lieutenant Commander Park's casual mention of strategic command. If the Terran Navy was this powerful, what kind of threats did humanity face that required an even more powerful organization? What enemies did humanity fight that the Empire had never even imagined? For the first time in his life, Admiral Kethver was grateful that his people had lost a war. 6 months had passed since the disaster that Imperial records now called the 17-minute incident. Emperor Zephyr himself stood on the bridge of his personal flagship, approaching the border of human space. The decision to come here personally had shocked the entire Imperial government, but the Emperor knew it was necessary. The reports from Admiral Kethver had been disturbing enough. The additional intelligence gathered in the months since had been terrifying. The Zephyrian Empire now knew that they had accidentally declared war on a civilization, so advanced that their invasion fleet had been considered a minor police matter. "Your Majesty," Admiral Kethver said, approaching from the communications station, "the humans have responded to our request for a diplomatic meeting. They are sending a representative to meet with us." Emperor Zephyr nodded. The decision to personally apologize to humanity had been the hardest choice of his long reign, but the alternative was the complete destruction of his empire. "Who are they sending?" "The message came from someone called Colonel Chun, Your Majesty. She will meet with us aboard a neutral diplomatic vessel." The Emperor recognized the name. Colonel Chun was the former border patrol captain whose small outpost had first revealed humanity's dangerous capabilities. "She has been promoted?" "Yes, Your Majesty. According to our intelligence, she returned to active duty with the Defense Corps after the incident at her border station. She is now listed as a strategic planning specialist." Emperor Zephyr understood the significance of this appointment. The humans were sending the officer who had first encountered Imperial forces. It was either a gesture of respect or a subtle threat. With humans, it was often difficult to tell the difference. The diplomatic meeting took place aboard a small, unarmed vessel in neutral space. Emperor Zephyr had brought only a minimal security detail, wanting to demonstrate that he came in peace. When he entered the meeting room, he was surprised by what he saw. Colonel Chun looked exactly as she had in the recordings from 6 months ago. Calm, professional, and completely unintimidated by meeting the ruler of an empire spanning nearly 1,000 star systems. She stood and offered a respectful nod. "Your Majesty," she said simply, "thank you for agreeing to this meeting." Emperor Zephyr had prepared a formal speech of apology in terms of surrender. Instead, he found himself asking the question that had haunted him for months. "Colonel Chun, why did you let us retreat?" "I'm sorry, Your Majesty." "At your border station. After the first battle, you could have called for immediate military support, but you did not. You allowed us to bring in reinforcements. You let us escalate the situation. Why?" Colonel Chun sat down and gestured for the Emperor to do the same. "Your Majesty, our job was to evaluate the threat level you represented and to gather intelligence about your capabilities. A single battle would not have provided enough information. So you sacrificed your station and your crew to study us?" "No, Your Majesty. We sacrificed our station and crew to protect human civilization. By allowing you to reveal your full capabilities in a controlled situation, we ensured that any future conflict would be resolved quickly and with minimal casualties on both sides." Emperor Zephyr felt a chill at the casual way she spoke of sacrificing lives for strategic advantage. "You planned the entire sequence of events?" "Not exactly planned, Your Majesty, but we had contingency protocols for first contact with hostile alien civilizations. My job was to implement those protocols. What were your orders?" Colonel Chung paused, seeming to consider how much she should reveal. "To evaluate alien military capabilities, gather tactical intelligence, and provide that information to Defense Command." If possible, to avoid escalation to a level that would require Terran Navy intervention. You failed in that last objective. Yes, Your Majesty, the situation did require Navy involvement. However, it was resolved at the patrol group level rather than requiring fleet deployment. From our perspective, that was an acceptable outcome. Emperor Zephyr Thek realized that even the devastating defeat of his invasion fleet had been considered a minor success by human standards. They had hoped to avoid any military action at all. Colonel, I must ask you directly, how powerful is humanity's military? Colonel Chin smiled slightly. Your Majesty, that is a very broad question. What aspect of our capabilities are you most interested in? How many ships does the Terran Navy have? I am not authorized to discuss specific fleet numbers, Your Majesty. But I can tell you that the 3 patrol groups that engaged your fleet represented a very small fraction of our total naval strength. How small? Less than 1% of 1%, Your Majesty. Emperor Zephyr Thek did the mathematics. If 150 ships represented less than 0.01% of human naval strength, then humanity had millions of warships. His empire had perhaps 50,000 ships total, counting cargo vessels and civilian craft. Colonel, before your current assignment, what was your previous posting? I was a strategic planner for Deep Strike Command, Your Majesty. What is Deep Strike Command? It is a specialized unit within Strategic Command. We handle what you might call creative solutions to persistent problems. Emperor Zephyr Thek had heard references to Strategic Command before, but always in vague terms. What kind of problems? Hypothetical scenarios mostly, Your Majesty. Things like galactic-scale invasions, extinction-level threats, or situations requiring unconventional approaches. Galactic-scale invasions? Yes, Your Majesty. We run simulations for invasions involving millions of ships, attacks by extragalactic forces, or threats from higher-dimensional entities. Deep Strike Command develops response strategies for scenarios that conventional military doctrine cannot address. The Emperor felt as if the universe had shifted around him. Humanity was not just more powerful than his empire. They were planning FOR threats on a scale he could barely comprehend. Colonel, how many humans serve in your military? Colonel Chen appeared to calculate for a moment. Active duty across all branches? Approximately 12 billion personnel, Your Majesty. 12 billion? Yes, Your Majesty. Though that number does not include reserve forces, colonial militias, or veterans who could be recalled to active duty. It also does not include our artificial intelligence units. Artificial intelligence units? Yes, Your Majesty. We have approximately 40 billion AI units serving in various military capacities. They handle logistics, tactical analysis, ship operations, and strategic planning. Emperor Zephyr Thek's entire empire had a total population of 8 billion individuals. Humanity had 12 billion active military personnel and 40 billion artificial minds dedicated to warfare. Colonel, I must ask this directly. If humanity is so powerful, why have you not conquered the galaxy? Colonel Chun looked genuinely surprised by the question. Your Majesty, why would we want to conquer the galaxy? For resources, for territory, for the glory of expansion. Your Majesty, humanity controls several hundred star systems. We have access to more resources than we could use in 1,000 years. Our territory is sufficient for our current population? As for glory, she paused. We find more glory in exploration, scientific discovery, and peaceful development than in conquest. But surely you must expand eventually? We do expand, Your Majesty. We establish new colonies, explore new regions of space, and make contact with new civilizations. But we do so peacefully. Conquest is inefficient and morally questionable. Emperor Zephyr Thek struggled to understand this concept. Every civilization he had ever encountered sought to expand through conquest. What about other threats? Surely you face enemies that require military action? Yes, Your Majesty. There are threats that require military response. Pirate organizations, rogue eye systems, occasionally hostile alien species like... She paused. diplomatically, like the situation that brought us together. What about major threats? The kind that require strategic command? Colonel Chun's expression became more serious. Your Majesty, there are things in the galaxy that most civilizations never encounter. Ancient automated defense systems. Extragalactic. Invasion fleets? Reality-distorting entities from higher dimensions. Space-time parasites that consume entire star systems. These things exist? Yes, Your Majesty. Humanity has encountered all of them at various times. Strategic command exists to handle threats that could destroy entire civilizations or alter the fundamental nature of reality itself. Emperor Zephyr realized that while his empire had been conquering primitive worlds and fighting other organic species, humanity had been battling cosmic horrors that he could barely imagine. Colonel, given humanity's capabilities, what prevents you from simply destroying any civilization that threatens you? Our laws, Your Majesty. Human civilization is governed by strict ethical codes regarding the use of force. We are forbidden from using our full military capabilities against organic civilizations except in cases of absolute necessity. Absolute necessity? If a species posed an existential threat to human civilization or to galactic civilization, as a whole, then strategic command would be authorized to use any means necessary to eliminate that threat. Any means necessary? Colonel Chun nodded gravely. Your Majesty, humanity possesses weapons that could sterilize entire galaxies. We have technologies that could rewrite the basic laws of physics. We have the ability to manipulate time itself. These capabilities are never used lightly. Emperor Zephyr felt a profound sense of relief that his empire had chosen to retreat rather than escalate the conflict further. Colonel, what classification did you assign to the Zephyrian Empire? Initially, you were classified as a Category 2 threat, Your Majesty. A potential danger to human colonies, but not an existential threat to human civilization. Initially? After your retreat and your request for diplomatic contact, you were reclassified as a Category 1 situation. A misunderstanding that could be resolved through negotiation. And if we had continued to escalate? Category 3 would have required strategic command involvement, Your Majesty. At that point, the situation would have been resolved permanently. Emperor Zephyr understood the implication. If he had continued the war, his entire civilization would have been erased from existence. Colonel, I came here to formally apologize for our actions and to request a peace treaty. What terms would humanity find acceptable? Your Majesty, humanity has no interest in punishing the Zephyrian Empire. We understand that first contact situations can lead to misunderstandings. We propose a simple agreement, a 100 light-year neutral zone between our territories, formal recognition of mutual sovereignty, and the establishment of diplomatic relations. That is remarkably generous given the circumstances. Your Majesty, holding grudges is inefficient. We prefer to focus on building positive relationships with our neighbors. As the treaty negotiations concluded, Emperor Zephyr asked one final question that had been troubling him. Colonel, you mentioned that our forces lasted 17 minutes against a peacekeeping operation. How long did your war planners expect us to last? Colonel Chun smiled. Actually, Your Majesty, command was quite impressed with your tactical performance. The original simulations predicted that your fleet would be neutralized in approximately 12 minutes. 12 minutes? Yes, Your Majesty. Your forces adapted more quickly than expected and employed some innovative strategies that our planners had not anticipated. They are updating their simulation parameters to account for your tactical creativity. Emperor Zephyr realized that even his empire's complete military defeat had been viewed by humans as an impressive performance that exceeded their expectations. As he prepared to return to his empire, the emperor reflected on what he had learned. Humanity was not just more powerful than the Zephyrian Empire. They existed on a completely different level of existence, dealing with cosmic threats while treating territorial disputes as minor administrative matters. Most importantly, they had chosen mercy over destruction, negotiation over conquest, and peace over war. They could have erased his empire from existence without effort, but instead they had offered friendship and cooperation. Emperor Zephyr Thek returned to his capital knowing that he had narrowly avoided the complete annihilation of his people. More than that, he had gained something far more valuable than conquest, the knowledge that the galaxy contained wonders and terrors beyond his imagination, and that humanity stood as guardians against the darkness between the stars. The Zephyrian Empire would never again consider military expansion. They had learned that some enemies were too powerful to fight, and some allies were too valuable to lose. The warning lights flashed red across the communication center of the Galactic Council Station. Emergency signals poured in from the Outer Rim worlds, each message more desperate than the last. The Zephyrian colonies were under attack, and they were losing badly. Council Speaker Thane watched the holographic displays with growing horror. Kepler 442, New Zephyr, and 7 other colony worlds showed the same terrible pattern. Massive bioships dropped from hyperspace and began systematic destruction of everything in their path. The attackers were Vorthans, and they showed no mercy. The Zephyrians had never been warriors. Their blue-skinned people spent their lives healing others and building gardens on dead worlds. They turned barren rocks into green paradises where other species could live and grow. Every species in the galaxy owed them something. Their medical knowledge had saved billions of lives across hundreds of worlds. Now they were dying, the first. Transmission came from New Zephyr 3 hours ago. Dr. Vila, the colony administrator, appeared on screen with smoke filling the air behind her. Her usual calm voice shook with fear. Council Station, this is New Zephyr Colony. We are under attack by unknown forces. They dropped from hyperspace 20 minutes ago? Massive organic ships. They are not responding to any communication attempts. They are firing on civilian targets. We have no military defenses. Please send help immediately. The transmission cut to static. Since then, 8 more colonies had sent similar messages. Before going silent, the pattern was always the same. Bioships appeared. They ignored all attempts at communication. They attacked civilian targets first. Then silenced. Council Speaker Thane called an emergency session. Representatives from 12 species gathered in the Great Chamber within an hour. The mood was dark and frightened. Everyone knew what this meant. The Vorthans had returned. The Vorthan swarm had appeared at the edge of known space 5 years ago. They traveled in massive fleets of living ships that looked more like giant insects than spacecraft. Their hulls pulsed with organic tissue. Their weapons fired streams of acid that could melt through any known armor. They bred fast and fought without fear. The first contact had been a disaster. The Vorthans attacked every ship that came near them. They destroyed 3 exploration fleets before anyone understood what they were dealing with. The Council tried to make peace. The Vorthans responded by attacking the nearest colony world and killing every living thing on the surface. The war that followed lasted 2 years. The Council forces fought bravely, but the Vorthans had advantages that made them nearly impossible to defeat. Their ships could heal from damage. Their crews bred new warriors during battle. Most importantly, they seemed to have no interest in anything except destruction. The war ended when the Vorthans simply disappeared. Their fleets jumped into hyperspace and vanished into the unknown regions. For 3 years, the galaxy had been at peace. Everyone hoped the Vorthans had found somewhere else to go or had destroyed themselves somehow. They were wrong. Ambassador Keth of the Rigelian Empire stood first in the council chamber. His insect-like face showed no emotion, but his voice carried urgency. The Vorthan attack pattern matches their previous behavior exactly. They target civilian populations first to cause maximum terror. They ignore all attempts at communication. They fight until everything is dead or they are destroyed. This is not a raid. This is the beginning of another war. Murmurs of agreement filled the chamber. Everyone remembered the last war, the casualty reports, the destroyed worlds, the desperate evacuations of entire star systems. What forces do we have available? Asked Ambassador Chun of the Altarian Federation. Her people were traders, not fighters, but they understood the economic impact of war better than anyone. Military Coordinator Voss checked his datapad. The 2nd Defense Fleet is stationed at Rigel. They could reach the attack zone in 18 hours. The 4th Fleet is on patrol near the core worlds. They would need 36 hours to get there. Too slow, said Ambassador Keth. By the time our fleets arrive, the colonies will be dead. The truth hung heavy in the air. The Council fleets were positioned to defend the major worlds. The Outer Rim colonies had always been vulnerable. The assumption was that any attacker would give warning or make demands first. The Vorthans did neither. What about local defenses? Asked Ambassador Chun. The Zephyrians have no military ships, replied Coordinator Voss. They have medical vessels and terraforming equipment, but nothing that can fight. Their colonies do not even have planetary shields. The council chamber fell silent. Everyone understood the mathematics of the situation. Help was too far away. The defenders had no weapons. The attackers showed no mercy. The Zephyrian colonies were doomed unless someone could reach them in time. That was when Admiral Sarah Chun spoke up from the observer section, the human third. Fleet is conducting exercises in the Beta Centauri system. We could reach the Zephyrian colonies in 6 hours. All eyes turned to her. Humans were the newest members of the Galactic Council. They had joined only 5 years ago after making contact through a damaged exploration ship. Their technology was primitive by galactic standards, but they had proven useful allies. The humans had one advantage that made them valuable despite their limited technology. They were fighters. Not the calm, calculated warfare of the advanced species, but something more primal and desperate. Human ships fought like cornered animals, using tactics that seemed insane until they worked. How many ships? Asked Coordinator. Voss, 53 combat vessels, replied Admiral Chun. Plus support ships and medical vessels. Against how many Vorthans? Admiral Chun checked the latest intelligence reports. Estimated 400 bioships across 9 colonies. They appear to be operating in coordinated swarms of 40 to 50 ships each. The numbers were terrible. 8-to-1 odds against. An enemy that had stalemated the combined council fleets during the last war. It would be suicide. Admiral, said Council Speaker Thane carefully, while we appreciate the human offer of assistance, those odds are not favorable. Perhaps it would be better to wait for reinforcements. Admiral Chun stepped forward. She was smaller than most of the alien representatives, but her presence filled the room. Her dark eyes showed no fear, only determination. Speaker Thane, with respect, waiting means watching the Zephyrians die. My people do not stand by while genocide happens. We have studied Vorthan tactics. We believe we can make a difference. Studied them how? Asked Ambassador Keth. We fought them once before. 3 years ago, a small Vorthan scout fleet attacked our outer colony of New Terra. We destroyed them completely. Shocked silence filled the chamber. No one had heard of this encounter? Human space was far from Vorthan territory, or so everyone had thought. Why was this not reported to the Council? Demanded Ambassador Chun. Because it was over before we could report it, replied Admiral Chun. The attack lasted 4 hours. We lost 2 ships. They lost everything. Coordinator Voss pulled up star charts on the main display. New Terra is in Sector 7, that is 300 light-years from the nearest recorded Vorthan activity. Which means their territory is larger than we thought, said Admiral Chun. And they have been scouting for 3 years, looking for weaknesses. The Zephyrian colonies are just the beginning. The terrible logic of it hit everyone at once. The Vorthans had not disappeared. They had been preparing, learning, planning. The attack on the peaceful Zephyrians was not random. It was calculated to cause maximum terror while testing. Council response times. Council Speaker Thane looked around the chamber. Every representative showed the same expression of fear and determination. They all understood what this meant. The war was starting again, and this time the Vorthans were ready. Very well. Admiral Chun, the Council formally requests human assistance under the Mutual Defense Pact. Your fleet is authorized to engage. Vorthan forces and provide aid to Zephyrian civilians. Admiral Chun saluted sharply. Understood, Speaker. We will depart immediately. As she turned to leave, Ambassador Keth called out, Admiral, what makes you think 50 human ships can succeed where 400 Council ships failed last time? Admiral Chun paused at the doorway. Because last time you were fighting for territory and resources. This time we are fighting to save lives. That makes all the difference. She left the chamber at a run, heading for the communication center to contact her fleet. Behind her, the alien representatives sat in stunned silence, wondering if they had just ordered the humans to their deaths or if humanity might actually pull off a miracle. Aboard the UES Indomitable, Admiral Chun burst onto the bridge where her crew was monitoring routine training exercises. Commander Torres looked up from his tactical display. Admiral, we just received flash traffic from Council Command. Emergency deployment orders? Cancel the exercises, Admiral Chun commanded. All ships to battle stations. Plot a course for the Kepler 442 system, maximum speed. Send a message to the fleet. The Zephyrians are under attack. We are going to war. The bridge crew moved with practiced efficiency. Alarms sounded throughout the ship as the crew prepared for immediate departure. In the launch bays, fighters were loaded with weapons and fuel. In engineering, the hyperspace drives were pushed to maximum output. Admiral, called Lieutenant Morrison from the communications station, we are receiving updated casualty reports from the Zephyrian colonies. It looks bad. New Zephyr is gone. Completely silent. 4 other colonies are reporting massive civilian casualties. Admiral Chun studied the tactical display showing Vorthan fleet positions. The bioships moved in coordinated swarms, hitting multiple targets simultaneously. It was a professional military operation designed to overwhelm any response. Time to hyperspace jump? She asked. 30 seconds, replied Commander Torres. All ships report ready for departure, added Lieutenant Morrison. Admiral Chen took one last look at the peaceful stars of Council space. In 6 hours, her ships would either save the Zephyrian colonies or die trying. There was no middle ground with the Vorthans. Execute jump, she ordered. 53 human warships disappeared into hyperspace, racing toward a battle that would define humanity's place in the galaxy forever. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 442 system exactly 6 hours after leaving Council space. What they found was worse than anyone had imagined. Admiral Chun stood on the bridge of the UES Indomitable, staring at the tactical display in horrified silence. The system that had once housed 3 million Zephyrian colonists was now a graveyard. Debris fields marked where space stations had been destroyed. Broken ships drifted without power between the planets. The beautiful blue and green worlds that the Zephyrians had spent decades terraforming were scarred with massive impact craters. Report, Admiral Chun ordered, her voice steady despite what she was seeing. Commander Torres worked frantically at his station, trying to make sense of the sensor data. Admiral, I am reading massive bioship formations throughout the system, at least 300 vessels, possibly more. They appear to be operating in coordinated swarms. Lieutenant Morrison called out from communications. Admiral, I am picking up distress signals from Kepler 442b, very weak. It sounds like survivors in underground shelters. Put it on speaker. The bridge filled with static, then a faint voice speaking in the musical tones of the Zephyrian language. The universal translator struggled with the weak signal. This is Dr. Nella of Healing Center 7. We have approximately 2,000 survivors in the underground medical complex. The surface is completely destroyed. Bioships are still conducting sweeps above us. We have supplies for maybe 3 days. If anyone can hear this, please help us. The transmission faded back to static. Admiral Chun closed her eyes for a moment, thinking of 2,000 terrified civilians hiding in underground bunkers while alien monsters hunted for them above. How many more signals like that? She asked. 17 confirmed, Admiral, replied Lieutenant Morrison. Scattered across 4 different planets. Total survivors estimated at 50,000. Commander Torres looked up from his tactical display. Admiral, we have a problem. The Vorthan bioships are not just attacking randomly. They are conducting systematic searches. They know there are survivors underground, and they are trying to dig them out. On the main screen, a magnified view showed a cluster of Vorthan bioships hovering over a section of Kepler 442b. The ships look like massive beetles, their dark shells gleaming in the starlight. As the humans watched, streams of green acid poured from the bioships onto the planet's surface below. The acid ate through rock and metal, creating deep tunnels that led toward the underground shelters. They are melting their way down to the survivors, said Commander Torres grimly. At their current rate, they will reach the deepest shelters within 8 hours. Admiral Chun studied the tactical display showing Vorthan positions throughout the system. The bioships moved in groups of 30 to 40, each swarm working methodically to eliminate any remaining Zephyrian survivors. It was not random violence. It was professional extermination. What about their fleet composition? She asked. Standard Vorthan formation, replied Commander Torres. Heavy bioships for bombardment, medium ships for system patrol, light ships for close support. They also have 6 command vessels that appear to be coordinating the entire operation. Command vessels? Larger bioships positioned at key points throughout the system. They are broadcasting coordination signals to the other ships. Biochemical communication, from what our sensors can detect. Admiral Chun nodded. During the previous war, the Council had learned that Vorthans used a kind of hive mind communication system. Individual ships could operate independently, but they fought much more effectively when coordinated by command vessels that acted like the brain of the swarm. Distance to the nearest Vorthan formation? 2 million kilometers, Admiral. They have not detected us yet. We dropped out of hyperspace behind the system's largest gas giant. Admiral Chun looked at the numbers one more time. 300 Vorthan bioships. 53 human ships? 8-to-1 odds against an enemy that had fought the entire Galactic Council to a standstill. Any sane military commander would call for reinforcements and wait, but the survivors did not have time to wait. Every hour of delay meant more civilians dying in underground shelters as acid ate through their defenses. Commander Torres, I need a full tactical analysis of Vorthan capabilities. What did we learn from the new Terra engagement? Torres pulled up classified files on his display. The bioships are heavily armored but slow to maneuver. Their acid weapons are devastating against traditional energy shields, but they have limited range. They regenerate damage over time, but they can be destroyed if you hit them hard enough. What about their weaknesses? They rely heavily on group coordination. Individual ships become much less effective when separated from the swarm. Also, their biochemical communication system has a limited range. If you can destroy the command vessels, the rest of the fleet becomes confused and disorganized. Admiral Chun studied the tactical display, looking for patterns in the Vorthan deployment. The command vessels were positioned to provide maximum coverage of their area of operations. But that also meant they were exposed if an enemy could get close enough. What is the status of our fleet? All ships report ready for combat, Admiral, said Lieutenant Morrison. Weapons charged, shields up, fighters prepared for launch. Casualties from the hyperspace jump? Minor injuries only. Engineering reports all systems operating within normal parameters. Admiral Chun walked to the center of the bridge where a holographic display showed the entire Kepler 442 system. Red icons marked Vorthan positions. Blue icons marked human ships. Tiny green dots marked the last Zephyrian survivors, hiding underground while death searched for them above. Gentlemen, we are going to do something that every military manual says is impossible. We are going to defeat a numerically superior enemy force through superior tactics and sheer bloody-minded determination. The bridge crew listened intently as their admiral outlined her plan. The Vorthans expect us to fight like the Council fleets did in the last war. Long-range energy weapons, defensive formations, gradual attrition. That is not how humans fight. We are going to hit them fast, hit them hard, and hit them where they do not expect it. She pointed to the tactical display. The key is those command vessels. They are coordinating the entire operation. If we can destroy them quickly, the rest of the fleet will lose coordination. But they are protected by escort formations, and they are spread throughout the system. Commander Torres frowned. Admiral, to attack all 6 command vessels simultaneously, we would need to split our forces. That makes us even more outnumbered at each point of attack. Exactly. Which is why the Vorthans will not expect it. They think in terms of concentrated firepower and overwhelming numbers. They will assume we are trying to pick off isolated targets or defend a single position. Admiral Chun highlighted 3 sections of the tactical display. We split the fleet into 3 attack groups. Each group hits 2 command vessels simultaneously. Fast attack, maximum firepower, then immediate withdrawal before the escort swarms can respond. That gives us about 18 ships per attack group, calculated Commander Torres, against 40 to 50 bioships protecting each command vessel. The attacks will be coordinated to happen within a 5-minute window. The Vorthans will not have time to redeploy forces between attacks. By the time they realize what is happening, half their command structure will be destroyed. Lieutenant Morrison looked worried. Admiral, what if the attack groups cannot withdraw in time? Those escort swarms will converge on any human ships that get trapped. Then those ships fight until they cannot fight anymore. But they will have completed their mission. Without coordination, 300 scattered bioships become much less dangerous than one organized fleet. The plan was risky beyond anything attempted in previous galactic conflicts. It required precise timing, perfect coordination, and a level of aggressive tactics that most species considered suicidal. But Admiral Chun had studied human military history. Sometimes the impossible plan was the only one that worked. Questions? She asked. The bridge crew exchanged glances. Everyone understood the risks. Everyone also understood what would happen to the Zephyrian survivors if they failed. When do we attack? Asked Commander Torres. Admiral Chen checked the tactical display one more time. The Vorthan acid streams were still eating their way toward the underground shelters. Time was running out. We launched the attack in 30 minutes. That gives us time to position the attack groups and coordinate timing. Commander Torres, you will lead Attack Group Alpha against the command vessels near KEPL-ER 442B. Commander Harris will take Attack Group Beta against the vessels near the gas giant. I will lead Attack Group Gamma against the vessels in the asteroid. Belt? Admiral, said Lieutenant Morrison, the Galactic Council will never approve such an aggressive attack plan. The Galactic Council is not here, replied Admiral Chun. The survivors are dying while we talk. We are going to save them, no matter what it takes. Orders went out to the fleet. 53 human warships split into 3 groups and began moving toward their assigned targets. Each group took a different route through the system, using asteroids and planetary bodies to hide their approach. On the bridge of the UES Indomitable, Admiral Chun watched her plan unfold. Everything depended on the next hour. Either they would break the Vorthan fleet and save the survivors, or they would die trying. Admiral, called Commander Torres from his tactical station, Attack Group Alpha is in position. Attack Group Beta reports ready. We are approaching our target zone now. Time to target? 3 minutes, Admiral. Admiral Chun opened a fleet-wide communication channel. All ships, this is Admiral Chun. In 3 minutes, we are going to show the galaxy why humans never give up. We are not fighting for territory or resources. We are fighting for innocent lives. Make every shot count. The human ships closed in on their targets, weapons charged, and crews ready for battle. Below them, 50,000 Zephyrian civilians waited in underground shelters, not knowing that help was finally coming. Admiral Chun checked the countdown timer. 2 minutes until the attack began. 2 minutes until they discovered whether human determination could overcome impossible odds. The Vorthan bioships continued their methodical destruction, unaware that death was approaching from 3 directions at once. The countdown timer on Admiral Chun's display reached 0. Across the Kepler 442 system, 3 groups of human warships burst from their hiding places and attacked with a fury that shocked the galaxy. "All ships, attack now!" Admiral Chun commanded. Attack. Group Gamma, led by the UES Indomitable, erupted from behind a cluster of asteroids. 18 human ships accelerated at maximum thrust toward 2 Vorthan command vessels floating near the edge of the asteroid belt. The bioships looked like massive spiders, their dark hulls pulsing with organic patterns as they coordinated the destruction below. The Vorthans had ruled space through overwhelming numbers and superior regeneration for decades. No enemy had ever dared to attack them directly. Their escort swarms moved slowly, confident that any threat would be detected long before it became dangerous. They were wrong. Human ships moved faster than anything the Vorthans had encountered before. While Galactic Council vessels were built for comfort and long-range patrol, human warships were designed for one purpose: killing the enemy as quickly as possible. Every system was optimized for speed, firepower, and rapid maneuvers. The lead Vorthan command vessel detected the human approach when they were only 50,000 kilometers away. Biochemical alarm signals pulsed through the organic hull, alerting the escort swarm. 43 bioships began turning toward the threat, their acid weapons charging for defensive fire. Too late. The human ships opened fire at 30,000 kilometers, far beyond the range where Council tactics said engagement should begin. But humans did not use energy weapons like the other galactic species. They used kinetic railguns that fired metal slugs at tremendous velocity. The first barrage struck the Vorthan command vessel like a meteor shower. Railgun rounds punched through the bio-armor that had shrugged off energy weapons for years. Dark fluid spurted from the wounds as the organic ship writhed in pain. "Target the neural clusters," shouted Commander Torres over the fleet channel. "Hit them where it hurts." Human ships had studied captured Vorthan bioships for 3 years. Since the New Terra battle, they knew exactly where the vital organs were located. Every shot was aimed at the command centers, the communication nodes, and the regeneration systems that kept the bioships alive. The first Vorthan command vessel died in 90 seconds. Its massive hull convulsed once, then went dark and began drifting lifelessly through space. Immediately, half of the escort swarm stopped responding to coordination signals and began moving in confused circles. "First target down," reported Lieutenant Morrison. "Moving to second target." The second command vessel tried to retreat deeper into the asteroid field, using the massive rocks for cover. Its escort ships formed a defensive screen, firing streams of green acid that could melt through conventional armor in seconds, but human ships did not have conventional armor. They had reactive plating that exploded outward when hit, dispersing the acid before it could penetrate. They had ablative layers that burned away rather than melting. Most importantly, they had speed that let them dodge most attacks entirely. Evasive maneuvers, ordered Admiral Chun as acid streams lanced past her ship. "Do not let them pin us down." The human ships scattered into a complex attack pattern that had been perfected through countless simulations. They came at the Vorthans from 6 different angles simultaneously, forcing the bioships to divide their fire. No defensive formation could cover every approach vector at once. Meanwhile, across the system, attack groups Alpha and Beta were conducting their own assaults with devastating effectiveness. Commander Torres led Attack Group Alpha against the command vessels orbiting Kepler 442b. His 18 ships used the planet's gravity well to slingshot themselves into attack position at incredible speed. The Vorthans barely had time to react before human railguns were tearing through their coordination centers. The bioships above the planet had been focused on melting through rock to reach underground survivors. They were not prepared for an attack from space. 2 command vessels died within minutes, their escort swarms left leaderless and confused. "Alpha Group, targets eliminated," Torres reported over the fleet channel. "Beginning withdrawal phase." Commander Harris led Attack Group Beta in the most dangerous assault of all. Her target was positioned near the system's gas giant. where the gravitational fields made maneuvering difficult and retreat nearly impossible. But it was also the most important target, coordinating Vorthan operations across 3 different planets. Harris brought her ships in fast and low, using the gas giants' radiation storms to mask their approach. When they burst from the electromagnetic interference, they were practically on top of their targets. "Surprise!" Harris shouted over the combat channel as her ships opened fire at point-blank range. The Vorthan command vessels never had a chance. Human ships surrounded them and poured fire into their hulls from every direction. Railgun rounds ripped through bio-armor like paper. Nuclear torpedoes designed for ship-to-ship combat created massive internal explosions that no organic regeneration could repair. Both command vessels died in spectacular fashion, their hulls rupturing and spilling organic matter into space. The escort swarms tried to retaliate, but without coordination signals, they could not focus their fire effectively. "Beta Group, mission accomplished," Harris reported. "All primary targets destroyed?" Back in the asteroid field, Admiral Chun was putting the finishing touches on her own attack. The second command vessel had taken refuge behind a massive asteroid, using it as a shield while its escorts tried to organize a counterattack. "Commander Torres, can you get us a firing solution through that gap in the asteroid field?" Chun asked her tactical officer. "Affirmative, Admiral. But it will require a very precise shot at extreme range." "Do it." The UES Indomitable lined up its main railgun battery with computer-assisted precision. The targeting system calculated trajectory, asteroid rotation, and gravitational effects from 3 different planetary bodies. It was the kind of shot that required perfect timing and even better luck. The railgun fired. The metal slug traveled nearly 200,000 kilometers in under a second, threading the gap between 2 asteroids and striking the Vorthan command vessel directly in its primary neural cluster. The bioship died instantly. Its organic systems shutting down like a computer with its processor removed. The escort swarm immediately began dispersing, individual ships fleeing in random directions as their coordination network collapsed. "Gamma Group, all targets neutralized," Chun reported to the fleet. "Beginning Phase 2 of the operation." Phase 2 was the dangerous part. With the command vessels destroyed, the Vorthan fleet was in chaos. But there were still nearly 300 bio-ships scattered throughout the system. Individual ships were less dangerous than coordinated swarms, but they were still deadly if they managed to regroup. The 3 human attack groups began a methodical hunt through the system, targeting isolated bio-ships before they could link up with others. Human ships worked in pairs, using their superior speed to catch individual Vorthans and destroy them. Quickly, the battle became a deadly game of tag played across millions of cubic kilometers of space. Human ships would appear suddenly, destroy their target, and vanish before other Vorthans could respond. The bioships tried to form new groups, but human attacks kept breaking up their formations. "Contacts at bearing 27 Mark IV, called out Lieutenant Morrison. 3 bioships attempting to rendezvous near the outer moon. "Take us there," ordered Admiral Chun. Maximum acceleration. The UES Indomitable and her escort ship UES Defiant raced toward the Vorthan formation. The bioships were trying to establish a new coordination link using short-range biochemical signals. If they succeeded, they might be able to rally other scattered ships. The human ships attacked from above and below simultaneously. Rail gunfire ripped through the first bioship before it could react. The second ship tried to flee, but Defiant cut off its escape route and pounded it with nuclear torpedoes until its hull cracked open. The third bioship managed to get off a message pulse before it died, but there were no other Vorthans close enough to receive it clearly. "That is the last organized group in this sector," reported Torres. "Sensor sweeps show only individual ships remaining." Across the system, similar scenes played out as human ships systematically eliminated the remaining Vorthan forces. The bioships that had seemed so terrifying when organized into coordinated swarms became much less effective when fighting alone. Some Vorthans tried to flee the system entirely, jumping to hyperspace as soon as their engines could charge. Others fought to the death, using their ships as weapons in desperate ramming attacks. A few tried to hide among the asteroid fields or behind planetary bodies. None of it worked. Human ships found them all. The battle lasted 4 hours from first shot to final kill. When it was over, the Kepler 442 system was littered with drifting bioship hulks. Dark organic matter floated in space like blood from a massive wound. Admiral Chen stood on her bridge, watching the tactical display show green markers where human ships continued their search patterns. The red markers representing Vorthan forces had disappeared completely. "Status report," she ordered. "All Vorthan forces in the system have been eliminated," reported Commander Torres. "We lost 7 ships during the engagement. 14 ships have significant damage but remain operational. Total human casualties: 234 dead, 412 wounded. It was a heavy price but far lighter than anyone had expected when facing 8-to-1 odds against the most feared enemy in known space." "What about the survivors?" Chun asked. Lieutenant Morrison smiled for the first time since they had arrived. "We are receiving signals from all 17 survivor groups. The acid bombardment stopped when we destroyed the command vessels. Medical. Ships are already beginning evacuation procedures. Estimated survivors? 48,000 confirmed, with more being found every hour as search teams reach damaged shelters." Admiral Chun closed her eyes and felt the weight of command lift slightly from her shoulders. They had done it. 53 human ships had destroyed a Vorthan fleet that should have been undefeatable. More importantly, they had saved nearly 50,000 innocent lives. "Admiral," called Torres from his station, "we are receiving a priority transmission from the Galactic Council. They want a full report on the engagement. Tell them we will send a complete after-action report." "Within 6 hours," Chun replied. "Right now, our priority is getting those survivors to safety." "Yes, Admiral." Chun looked out at the stars of the Kepler 442 system, where human medical ships were already landing on the Zephyrian colonies to begin rescue operations. For the first time since joining the Galactic Council, humanity had proven itself as a major military power. The Vorthans had learned a painful lesson about underestimating human determination. The galaxy had witnessed something new, a small force defeating overwhelming odds, through superior tactics and sheer bloody-minded courage. Admiral Chun smiled grimly. The war was far from over, but today had been a good day to be human. 3 days after the battle, the Kepler 442 system was busy with rescue operations. Human medical ships worked alongside Zephyrian survivors to evacuate the wounded and begin rebuilding efforts. The mood was hopeful for the first time since the Vorthan attack began. Lieutenant James Morrison piloted his patrol craft through the outer asteroid belt, conducting the final sweep for any remaining Vorthan presence. His small squadron of 4 ships had been searching for 72 hours without finding anything more dangerous than floating debris. Morrison was 26 years old and had been in the human fleet for only 3 years. The battle 3 days ago was his first real combat experience, and he was still processing what he had witnessed. The systematic destruction of an enemy that had terrorized the galaxy for years. A desperate courage of outnumbered human ships. The sight of bioship hulks drifting through space like dead whales. "Contact bearing 037 Mark 12, called Ensign Parker from the sensor station. "Single bioship approximately 2 kilometers in length. It appears to be powered down." Morrison checked his tactical display. The bioship was drifting behind a large asteroid, almost hidden from casual observation. Its organic hull showed extensive damage from railgun impacts, and it was venting atmosphere through several hull breaches. "Life signs?" Morrison asked. "Difficult to determine through the bioarmor, sir. But there is minimal energy output. The ship appears to be in some kind of hibernation mode." Morrison studied the tactical data carefully. During the battle, most damaged Vorthan ships had either died completely or fought to the death. None had simply shut down and hidden. This was unusual behavior that warranted investigation. "Take us closer but maintain defensive distance." "I want a full sensor scan?" The patrol craft moved carefully toward the damaged bioship, weapons ready in case it was some kind of trap. As they approached, more details became visible on the main screen. The Vorthan vessel looked like a massive insect larva, its segmented hull scarred with deep wounds that had partially healed. Green fluid leaked slowly from the worst damage. "Sensor scan complete, sir," reported Ensign Parker. "The bioship shows minimal life signs, but they are definitely present. The hull configuration is different from the ships we fought during the main battle. This appears to be some kind of specialized vessel." Morrison frowned. During his training, he had studied all known Vorthan ship types: combat vessels, support ships, command vessels. This one did not match any of the standard classifications. Its hull was more rounded, with specialized chambers that served an unknown purpose. "Sir," called Ensign Davis from communications, "I am detecting a transmission from the bioship. Very low power, but it appears to be directed at us." "Put it through the universal translator." The bridge speakers crackled with static, then a series of complex tones that gradually resolved into words as the translation system worked. "Unknown vessels? This is Broodkeeper Jex of the Vorthan expansion fleet. I request safe passage for non-combatant cargo. My vessel carries only developing larvae, not warriors. Please acknowledge." Morrison exchanged glances with his crew. In 3 years of studying Vorthan behavior, no one had ever reported them requesting safe passage or claiming non-combatant status. They fought to the death or fled to hyperspace. They never surrendered. "Sir, what are your orders?" asked Ensign Parker quietly. Morrison considered his options. Standard military protocol was clear about enemy vessels that claimed surrender. They were to be boarded, searched, and the crew taken prisoner if possible. But Vorthan bioships were notoriously difficult to board safely, and this one was claiming to carry larvae rather than adult warriors. "Open a channel," Morrison decided. "This is Lieutenant Morrison of the United Earth Fleet. You claim to carry non-combatants. What is the nature of your cargo?" The response came quickly. "Young ones who have not yet developed combat capability. They require specific environmental conditions to survive. My vessel is damaged and cannot return to Vorthan space. I request permission to depart this system peacefully." Morrison checked his tactical display again. The bioship was definitely damaged and posed no immediate threat. Its weapons appeared to be non-functional, and it was barely maintaining life support. If it really contained Vorthan young, they would die if the ship was destroyed. But something bothered him about the situation. During the main battle, every Vorthan ship had fought with fanatical determination. None had retreated when damaged. None had shown concern for survival over combat effectiveness. This sudden display of parental protection seemed inconsistent with everything humans knew about Vorthan behavior. "Ensign Davis, record all communications for intelligence analysis. Ensign Parker, maintain full sensor scans. I want to know everything about that ship before we make any decisions." "Sir," reported Parker after several minutes of scanning, "the bioship does appear to contain multiple life forms in what look like development chambers. The life signs are different from adult Vorthans. Smaller, less complex neural activity. It could be larvae as claimed." Morrison considered the implications. If the bioship really contained young Vorthans, destroying it would essentially be killing children. Human military doctrine was clear about protecting non-combatants, even enemy civilians. But if it was a trick of some kind, letting it go could put other systems at risk. "Sir," called Davis from communications, "I'm